Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to another live streaming of basic transfer pricing. And I would like to say thank you po sa ating mga subscribers. Umabot na tayo ng ilan na hari? 828 subscribers. No, thank you very much. And our topic for tonight is about taxability of reserves revenue. No? Kasi sometimes yung revenue na na-earn ng isang company, nag-claim sila ng exemption, no? So, taxable ba o hindi yung revenue na yan? And then, about coinsurance contract, no? Kung valid ba siya o hindi. At disallow yung kiniklaim na insurance premium. No? And then, our case is about the Reserve Mechanical Corporation, formerly Reserve Casualty Corporation versus the Commissioner of Internal Revenue. No? This is 2018 case. No? This is a US case, US transfer pricing case. No? Shout out, Harry.
Wala pa pong shoutout na. Pero 7 viewers.
Okay. Sige. But I would like to say thank you dun sa mga nag-register na po sa ating free seminar, no? Meron po tayong free seminars. Actually, this is already very late, no? So, ginawa ko for the month of June, puro lahat transfer pricing. And for the month of July to November, meron ng mga ibang topics, not only transfer pricing, no? But every month, meron tayong transfer pricing update that is for 2 days. But that 2 days na yan is only 4 hours, no? Kasi webinar, hindi ina-advise na yung straight na 8 hours. No? Ang allowed is 2 hour in the morning, 2 hour in the afternoon. Yun lang po yung parang effective pagdating sa webinar. And kung makikita ninyo, marami tayong transfer pricing. That's 2 hours lang naman yan. For 1 day, no, 2 hours lang yung topic natin. But we'll see to it na yung 2 hours na yan, marami kayong matutunan. Why? Kasi karamihan dyan, i-concise na lang talaga natin yung ating topics na doon sa 2 hours na yan, kung ano man yung topics natin, makukover natin. Kung hindi man lahat, at least yung buong topic makovered po natin, no? And thank you very much kasi mga updates na po yan, no? Just like yung mga previous na topics na ino-offer natin sa Philippine School of Taxation, halos hindi na natin siya ma-offer. Why? Because we have to update the topics, especially now na iba na yung ating world, no? Digitized world na tayo. So, mag-iiba talaga tayo. And even approach natin sa taxation. Kasi although yung taxation natin dito sa Pilipinas is still the same, pero there are so many international tax updates that we will also be affected. That's why kailangan prepared tayo. That's why if you try to look at sa mga topics natin sa transfer pricing, kasama na international taxation, the permanent establishment, nag-expand tayo ng topics. Kasi hindi lang naman local taxation yung apektado tayo for compliance, including also yung international taxation because there are multinational companies, they are here in the Philippines, pero meron din silang mga permanent establishment or meron din silang mga branches in other parts of the world na pagka nag-prepare ka ng consolidated financial statements, kasama, no? So, we have to consider all that. And even in transfer pricing, we have the 3/3 transfer pricing documentation, yung master file, country-by-country reporting, at saka yung local files. So, lahat yan involved na yung worldwide, no? Kasi world na yung pinag-uusapan natin ngayon, hindi lang domestic or local taxation. Okay. Ilan na yung ating viewers?
5 viewers.
Okay. So, good evening po sa mga viewers natin and thank you very much. So, our topic is about the taxability of reserves revenue. Actually, itong si reserve, ano to, siya yung company dito, no? Yung taxability niya was questioned by the Commissioner of Internal Revenue because nag-claim nga siya ng exemption, no? Kasi bakit siya nag-claim ng exemption? Ang contention niya na insurance company siya, and as an insurance company, meron siyang certain provision in the Internal Revenue Code, nag-apply siya ng exemption, no? Kasi meron siyang holder siya of a secondary license, no? B ng insurance commission nila. So, yun ang ginamit niya. But, ngayon, ang trend talaga is substance. So, even if you have a secondary license as an insurance company, but yung activity mo, wala namang substance of that insurance company. It is explained in this case, no? Wala namang substance. So, hindi siya pina-avail ng exemption ng kanyang income as insurance company. Tinax siya as an ordinary company, no? And also the co-insurance contract. Kasi yung mga co-insurer niya or halimbawa nag-reinsure siya in other company was also disallowed as an insurance company. So yung co-insurance contract niya was declared also null and void for tax purposes, no? So, wala tayong question and answer, di ba, Hari?
Wala.
So, mali ito. Case ito, no? So, case. So, let's start with the case of Reserve Mechanical Corporation, formerly Reserve Casualty Corporation versus Commissioner of Internal Revenue. What is this case all about, no? Okay. Itong case na to, United States Tax Court. So, nasa tax court pa to, wala pa siya sa Supreme Court, no? So, anong ang issues dito for consideration kasi dinala na ito sa tax court, no? So, the issues for consideration in this case, Reserve Casualty Corporation and currently Reserve Mechanical Corporation versus Commissioner of Internal Revenue. The issues are, number one, whether transactions that petitioner executed, sinong petitioner dito? Si Reserve, no? Si Reserve Mechanical Corporation. Petitioner executed during the tax years in issue constituted insurance contract. Yun. Ang tanong, insurance contracts ba yung transaction? For federal income tax purposes. For federal income tax purposes. Kasi actually dito hindi naman nagreklamo yung insurance commission nila, no? And therefore, whether petitioner was exempt from tax as an insurance company. Okay. So, kung qualified yun, insurance contract, so ang company is also qualified as an insurance company, exempt siya because nag-claim siya ng exemption, no, under the section of the provision ng Internal Revenue Code. And second issue is whether petitioner was eligible to make an election under Section 953D to be treated as a domestic corporation. And number three, if petitioner was not an insurance company and was not eligible to make an election under Section 953D, whether payment that it received for the tax years in issue are subject to the 30% tax imposed by Section 881. So, kung hindi siya insurance company, so yung income niya received during the year, subject ba siya sa 30% na corporate income tax? Okay. So, ito yung parang background of the case, no? Reserve Mechanical Corporation, formerly Reserve Casualty Corporation, ito yung company, no? Pero bigyan ko lang kayo ng brief overview. Parang shortcut lang natin para maintindihan ninyo kasi yung iba dito during our discussion in detail na, no? Yung specific sanction para makita nyo lang yung big picture of the case. Itong si Reserve Mechanical Corporation, may founder ito na si Sombom at saka si dalawa, no? Mga former employees sila ng mga mining companies. And then nag-set up sila ng company that caters to the maintenance ng mga mechanical equipments ng mining, ng environment, ng mga pollution, no? So in short, maganda yung kanilang nagagawang business, lumaki na sila. Yung PIC, no? Kasi ang may-ari nitong reserve, PIC holding company. So itong PIC company, nagkaroon ng parang turbulence, no? Nagkaroon ng sama ng panahon. Nasira yung kanyang isang building, nasira yung bubong. Meron silang insurance. But nung nag-claim na sila ng insurance, binayaran sila 2,000 lang. So, nagkaroon pa ng additional expenses, yung may-ari, additional $25,000 para magawa yung bubong. So in short, hindi sila satisfied doon sa insurance claim nila. Ang binayad sa kanila is only 2,000. So anong ginawa nila? Naghanap sila ng ibang insurance company. And hindi lang sila naghanap ng ibang insurance company, gumawa sila ng sarili nilang insurance company. No? Anong tawag dito? Captive insurer. No? Sila na yung may-ari ng insurance company, sila din ang ini-insured. No? So kung sino yung insured, sila yung may-ari ng insurance company. Yun po yung captive insurer. Yan ang nangyari dito sa case na to. Bakit? Kasi yung may-ari ng PIC company, underpaid siya, hindi siya binayaran ng tama nung insurance niya, nung nasira yung building. So, ang ginawa niya, gumawa sila ng sariling insurance company. But the problem is, since hindi yun talaga yung line of business activity nila, kasi doon sila magaling sa mga equipments, no? Sa mining, maintenance, doon sila magaling, but not in insurance. So, anong ginawa nila sa insurance? Nagkaroon sila ng captive insurance, pero pinapahawak lang din nila sa mga ibang tao, no? Ina-outsource lang din nila. Hanggang sa yung kanilang mga insurance premium, not properly computed, yung kanilang mga insurance contract, hindi masyadong maayos. Why? Because sila lang din, sarili lang din nila yung ini-insure doon. So, very general lang yung nakalagay doon sa kanilang mga insurance contract. Na ang findings dito, talagang walang substance yung kanilang pagiging insurance company. That's why, ang ginawa ng Commissioner of Internal Revenue or ng IRS, din is allow sila as insurance company and the income na kanilang na-receive, itong tax year involved dito is 2008, 2009, 2010, pinabayad sila ng regular na income tax na 30% instead of exempt sana sila. No? So yun po yung nangyari dito. And in short, sila yung nag-appeal dito, pero sila yung talo. No? Talo sila dito. The decision of the court is in favor of the Commissioner of Internal Revenue. So, yun po yung resulta. So, ano nangyari during the case? No? O kaya yung facts of the case. Kasi, alam nyo, pagka nagbasa ko ng case, inuna ko muna yung decision, ano nangyari dito? And then, binabalikan ko, paano nangyari? No? So, yun yung i-discuss po natin. No? Findings of the fact or what happened. No? So, let's have an overview of the Research Mechanical Corporation. Reserve Mechanical Corporation or formerly Reserve Casualty Corporation was incorporated in Anguilla in 2008. Saan ba itong Anguilla? Ito yung sa United Kingdom, no? Ito yung territory pa rin siya ng US. Ang gaganda ng mga beaches nila. Was incorporated in Anguilla in 2008 under the provision of Section 9 of the Companies Act. Anguilla is an overseas territory of the United Kingdom or UK. During the tax years in issue, Reserve held a Class B general insurance license. So, may license siya as an insurance company. Issued by the Financial Services Commission of Anguilla. Yung Financial Services Commission, yan ang nagbibigay ng permits kasama na yung insurance. Sa atin kasi may sarili tayong insurance commission, tapos yung mga financial services natin under the central bank. Sa kanila hindi. Yung Financial Services Commission, kasama na dyan yung mga financial institutions nila at saka insurance. No? Pero sa atin, magkahiwalay. Kasi yung mga financial companies natin, regulated sila ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, while yung mga insurance natin ng Insurance Commission, no, nakabukod. Pero sa kanila, isa lang, yung Financial Services Commission. The Financial Services Commission is the Anguillan governmental entity authorized to license, regulate, and oversee the financial services industry in Anguilla, including insurance companies. No? So during the tax years in issue, peak Casualty Holding, sino si peak Casualty Holdings Limited Liability Company or peak Casualty, is a Nevada Limited Liability Company, owned 100% of Reserve's stock, no? Sino may-ari ng peak? Si Reserve, no? Norman L. Sambom and Cory Wickel, it's owned 50% of peak Casualty. Itong dalawa na to, sila yung previous na employee ng mining companies, no? Nagtayo sila ng kanilang sariling company. Sambom and Wickel were U.S. citizens who resided in Idaho during the tax years in issue. Sambom and Wickel served as directors for Reserve. Sambom was its chief executive officer, president, treasurer, and assistant secretary. Imagine, ang dami niyang position sa company. Wickel was its vice president, secretary, and assistant treasurer. Okay, how does this PIC operate? PIC Mechanical and Components Inc. Marami din silang mga companies, no? So PIC Mechanical and Components Inc. or PIC was incorporated in 1997 and its principal place of business was in Osborne, Idaho. Sambom and Wickel, it's owned 50% of PIC outstanding stock, and PIC elected to be treated as an S corporation for federal income tax purposes. Ano po yung S corporation? No? Ang S corporation do not pay any income tax. It is a closely held corporation that makes a valid election to be taxed under subchapter S of Chapter 1 of the Internal Revenue Code, no, ng US. Pero itong S corporation usually does not pay any income tax. PIC engaged in the business of distributing, servicing, repairing, and manufacturing equipment used for underground mining and construction. Also, doon sila sa mining industry. Services yung kanila ino-offered. By 2008, PIC had grown significantly. Lumaki sila. In 2008 and 2009, it had 17 employees, including management personnel, shop managers, and staff and outside salespersons. In 2010, it had 13 employees. PIC's facilities were in Idaho's Silver Valley, an active mining district, and were within the Bunker Hill Mining and Metallurgical Complex, a Superfund site. Ito yung nandyan ang mga mining companies. Designated by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Bunker Hill Superfund site. No? Anong nangyari dyan sa Superfund? Sirang-sira na yung environment nila dyan because of the mga chemicals ng mining. The Bunker Hill Superfund site was polluted with heavy metals, including zinc and lead, as a result of historic mining practices. Talagang lalasunin ang lugar pag may mining companies, no? Kasi yung ginagamit nila mga chemicals para tunawin yung mga minerals. Ano yan? Very hazardous to the environment. The site was subject to EPA oversight and regulation As part of its business PIC, cleaned equipment used in polluted mines, and it took measures to protect its employees and to control fluid runoff containing pollutants and other hazardous materials. In short, yung ginagawa ni PIC is very risky, no? High risk. So during the tax years in issue, PIC's equipment was used in approximately 12 mines in Idaho. So malaki sila. Nevada and Washington, and it sold some products outside the United States. It manufactured and serviced a line of submersible pumps used to remove groundwater from working areas, and it supplied and serviced large ventilation fans and barrier doors, which are used to improve air quality and control airflow in underground mines. No? Kasi pag underground mines yan, especially pag tunnel, walang hangin doon sa ilalim na ng lupa, kaya kailangan mo ng ventilation. No? It rebuilt and customized trucks to be used as support vehicles in mining operations. So, magaling sila. No? And it manufactured and repaired guide wheels for hex conveyances, which are used in mine shaft elevators. No? So, expert talaga sila sa mining activities. Fixed commercial insurance coverage. So ito na, dito sila na magaling. Kaya nga sa nakikita ko, no, kahit anong galing mo sa isang bagay, may bagay din talaga na doon ka mahina. No? So magaling sila doon sa trabaho nila sa mining. Pumasok sila sa insurance. No? So dito sila na assess. No? So fixed commercial insurance coverage. During all of tax years in issue, PIC maintain insurance coverage with third-party commercial insurers. No? Papa-insured sila. It held policies with third-party insurers that cover general liability. Kasi nga high risk yung kanilang trabaho. So, talagang may insurance. Workers' compensation, commercial property, ito yung mga pinapa-insured nila. Inland, marine and international risk, it maintained policies, no? So for the year, ito yung kanilang insurance companies, no? Marami, meron silang insurance provider, employer manual casualty company, AMC, no? And then meron ding Idaho State Insurance Fund, and then ACE, American Insurance Company. Why? Kasi ang dami nilang mga policy type and limit categories na binabayaran para sa kanilang business, no? PIC also maintained auto insurance policies with State Farm for several vehicles that its employees drove, no? So pati 'yon. For tax years 2006, PIC claimed deduction in its form 1120S U.S. income tax form for an S corporation for insurance expense of 38,810. So, ang insurance, kiniklaim niya as a valid deductions. For tax year 2007, it claimed a deduction for insurance expenses of 95,828. Pagdating naman ng 2008, 57,300. No? PIC's history of losses and insurance claims and potential losses. Sometimes before the tax years in issue, PIC engaged a large accounting firm to review returns it had filed for previous years. May return siya na i-file na, PIC was advised that its income tax had been underreported and it needed to restate its income for 3 tax years. So, anong ginawa nila? Voluntarily, nag-restate sila or nag-amend sila ng income tax niya for 3 years and ni-restate ang income and they pay additional tax. No? So, voluntarily, no? Ginawa yun ni PIC. The IRS waived penalties. Hindi sila penalize ng IRS because voluntarily sila talaga yung nag-offer to correct its income tax return and pay additional income tax. No? So in years prior to the tax years in issue, PIC had filed insurance claims under its auto insurance policies for losses associated with company vehicles. So in February 2008, ito na yung nag-trigger kung bakit talaga siya nagpagawa ng sarili niyang insurance, no? Kasi nung 2008, nagkaroon ng snowstorm. Alam niyo na yung snowstorm, napakabigat niyan, no? Talagang pagka nalagay yan sa atip ng building mo, babagsak yung building, no? So, in February 2008, a snowstorm damaged the roof of one of Big's buildings and it filed a claim with AMC. AMC, ito yung insurance company niya. One of its insurance companies, no? So AMC conducted an examination and concluded that the repair would cost 2,000. Sabi ng AMC, yung insurance niya, ang cost daw ng repair is 2,000, no? So ano sabi ni Pick? Pick had a separate examination of the roof which concluded that 2,000 would be insufficient to repair the roof. It tried to negotiate with AMC for a larger payout. But after negotiations, AMC agreed to pay only 2,000. So, hindi talaga nagdagdag yung insurance company niya, 2,000 lang. So, anong ginawa ni Pick? Paid 25,000 out of pocket to have the roof replaced. So, useless lang yung kanyang insurance dahil nung nagkaroon na ng damage, hindi naman na-covered. 2,000 lang ang gastos, 25,000. Okay. Sino naman tong Rockquest and CW Enterprises? During the tax years in issue, Sambom and Wickel equally co-owned 100% of the membership interest in two other entities. No? So, mayroon pa silang iba pang companies. No? 100% owned nila eh. Rockquest, Limited Liability Company, and ZW Enterprises, also a limited liability company. Rockquest and CW were Idaho limited liability companies that were treated as partnership for federal income tax purposes. Rockquest owned real estate in Osborne and Hayden Lake, Idaho and Elko, Nevada. So, ang dami lang properties. So, nakapangalan dun sa isang company. It lists the properties in Osborne and Elko to Pick for Pick's business operation. So, yung isang company nila, doon nakapangalan yung kanilang real property na nililist din ng isang company nila which is the Pick, no? It lists the property in Hayden Lake to Premier Electric Motor Inc., Premier, an entity that Sambom and Wickel partially owned, no? So related parties pa rin. Premier conducted repair work on electrical motors and received most of its business from Pick, no? Mga related parties, related company. ZW was an entity that Sambom and Wickel organized to facilitate a loan to an ex-employee. So ito naman, bumili sila dito ng bar, no? After leaving Pick, the ex-employee wanted to purchase a bar in Osborne, and Sambom and Wickel through ZW helped finance the purchase. ZW held a 10% ownership interest in the bar. Sambom and Wickel organized CW so that Pick would not have any liability vis-a-vis the bar. No? So, yung kanilang interest dun sa bar, pinangalan nila sa CW na partnership. Formation of reserve. Before forming Pick, Sambom and Wickel works for mining equipment. Ito yung sinasabi ko na nag-work sila. No? Mining Equipment Limited, based in Colorado. Robert Pope was the president and owner of MEL. Ano tong MEL? Mining Equipment Limited, no? Sambom and Wickel viewed Pope as a mentor. Yung president doon, yun ang kanilang mentor, nagtuturo sa kanila, no? So Pope recommended that Pick should obtain more insurance kasi nga risky. So ano sabi ni Pope? Mag-obtain pa kayo ng insurance. And he suggested forming a captive insurance company. Siguro matalino itong mentor nila. Kasi siya yung may utak, siya yung nagturo no? Sumunod naman itong dalawa, no? So he advised Sambom and Wickel to contact Capstone Associated Services Limited or Capstone. So sabi niya, mag-form kayo ng insurance nyo, dagdagan nyo yung insurance nyo, pero mag-form kayo ng sarili nyo insurance company. Ang sabi niya, captive insurance company. Ano nga yung captive insurance company? Yung captive insurer, the insured owns the insurance company. So kung sino yung insured, siya din yung may-ari ng insurance company. Okay, so kinuha nila yung services ni Capstone. Sino naman to si Capstone? In 1998, Stewart Fieldman formed Capstone, a Texas limited partnership with an office in Houston, Texas. Capstone offered insurance-related services. So, ang business naman pala ni Capstone is insurance services, including captive feasibility studies. So, gumagawa siya ng feasibility studies, assistance with regulatory filings, accounting, other services related to forming a captive insurance company. Okay. So, tumutulong siya. Yung services niya is forming captive insurance company. It offered a turnkey administrative program to help small and intermediate-sized captives overcome transaction costs. Capstone employed insurance and accounting professionals, and it was closely affiliated with the Feldman Law Firm, no, which provided legal services to Capstone clients. Feldman was the Feldman firm's managing partner and chief executive officer of Capstone's corporate general partner. No? So sila lang mga related parties. Capstone would perform a feasibility study for a client which provided an opinion as to the advisability of establishing a captive insurance company. Generally, a feasibility study identified factors that would make a captive insurance arrangement desirable for a particular client, including a discussion of the client's business operations and risk, insurance coverage that the client held through third-party insurers. So in short, nag-form sila ng insurance company. And the form of the insurance is captive insurance. And kumuha sila ng mga experts, no, ng services ng mga tao na tutulong sa kanila in order to file para mabuo yung insurance company. So Capstone provided the services of insurance professional and it assisted clients in selecting and administering policies that the captive entities issued. No? So si Capstone ang nag-a-administer ng mga policies, no? Okay. So, on-site visit of PIC's operation. Sambom and Wickel contacted Capstone to discuss forming a captive insurance. So, ito na yung persona. And then, nagkaroon sila ng clients' background documents para sa feasibility study ng insurance. PIC provided financial and income statement, tax returns, and documentation of insurance policies that it held with third-party insurers. A copy of Rockwest partnership tax return for 2007 was included with the background documents. Okay. So in 2008, si Fieldman and Lance McNeil, director of Capstone's insurance department, visited PIC's facilities. Fieldman and McNeil met with Sambom and Wickel and the third locations where PIC conducted operations in Osborne and the facility in Hayden Lake. McNeil took pictures of PIC's operation and inventory. Fieldman and McNeil discussed with Sambom and Wickel documents that PIC had provided and discussed products that PIC sold and its repair and manufacturing operations. So magaling sila dun sa business ng repair and manufacturing operations, no? Ngayon papasok sila sa insurance. Okay, can just imagine, no? Napunta sila ng insurance na yung kanilang expertise na dun sa repair and manufacturing operations ng mining companies. So they discussed possible gaps in PIC's existing insurance coverage kasi nga kulang yung insurance coverage ni PIC. The on-site visit of PIC's facilities lasted 6 to 8 hours. No? So in short, ginawa na nila ng feasibility study si PIC. No? Okay. So the feasibility study includes explanation of tax benefits. So ano ba ang advantage pagka captive insurance ka? No, may tax benefits din. For small and intermediate size captives under Section 831B and 501C. Kasi 'di ba yung si Capstone meron din siyang law firm. Kaya tinuturuan din nila yung client on how to save on taxes. It included a summary of PIC's business operations, a table reflecting PIC's commercial insurance policies, and a list of other risk management issues. The study did not provide detailed information regarding the other risks that conventional insurance might not cover. The study provided brief description of this risk, but it included no information on the probability that this risk might occur. So, hindi masyadong na cover lahat ng dapat sa insurance, no? The study did not include information about request and ZW. The study identified specific policies that PIC could consider handling through a captive insurer. It identified potential domiciles for PIC small captive and concluded Anguilla is the preferred choice. No? Saan yung Anguilla? Yun yung territory ng US, no? Capstone and Willis, HRH of Houston, an insurance broker and risk management consulting firm that collaborated regularly with Capstone during the tax years in issue, jointly issued a feasibility study. Robert Snyder signed the study as Senior Vice President of Willis. McNeil was principal author of the study. And Snyder's role was to review it. Pero Snyder did not perform any independent investigation of PIC's business operation, and he based his review on the background documents that Capstone compiled and an oral briefing from McNeil. No? So, nagkaroon na sila ng license application and organization. So, ito yung pinaka matindi dito, no? Yung kanilang capital is 600,000 is 100,000. Yung capitalization nila is $100,000. Pero nag-apply sila ng sa business plan nila na hindi lalagpas ang gross receipts nila to 600,000, no? So ibig sabihin hindi sila lalagpas dun sa 600,000 na threshold na magiging taxable na. So in December 3, 2008, Reserve was incorporated in Anguilla, and on the same date, the Financial Services Commission granted its Class B insurance license, valid through December 31, 2008. So parang ano lang siya, yung provisionary, no? Nung araw na establish siya sa company, nagkaroon na kaagad siya ng license, no? So, same day. Reserve's insurance license application identified Capstone and Atlas Insurance Management, Anguilla Limited, as key service providers, no? So, malalakas yung kanyang mga service providers. On December 10, 2008, Reserve received an initial capitalization of $100,000, the minimum amount required for Class B insurer under Anguillan law. Capstone engaged Atlas to serve as the authorized representative and resident insurance manager for Capstone clients in Anguilla. Atlas transmitted documents that Capstone prepared for Reserve's license application to the Anguillan regulatory authorities. After Atlas submitted the license application, its principal role was to provide a local business address for Reserve, no? Sa Anguilla. No? So, binigyan lang nila ng local business address. Okay. Reserve's direct written policies, ito yung findings ng tax authority, no? Kasi nung gumawa na sila ng insurance policies, ito lang yung laman. Kasi nga captive insurance sila. Sila din yung may-ari, sila din yung insured. Ang ginawa nila na insurance policy, ito lang yung laman. All the policies contain the following provision. The coverages afforded by this policy are excess over any other valid and collectible insurance policy issued by any other insurer. The limit and deductible stated herein only apply after coverage is exhausted from any and all other valid insurance policies issued by any other insurer. No? Kaya nga walang substance. So, currently, the tax authority is very, very much particular about substance. So, ito, sabi mo, insurance company ka, pag ito yung in-issue mo na policy, walang substance, no? So during the tax years in issue, PIC maintained its insurance coverage with a third-party insurers. Kasi kahit na meron na siyang sariling captive insurance, nagpapa-insured pa rin siya sa third-party insurers. So for the tax years in issue, Capstone selected and drafted the policies that reserve issued for PIC and the other insureds. Sambom scanned the policies but did not review them in detail, no? And he was unaware of specific terms in the policies. Capstone employees, including McNeil, determined the premiums that reserve charges for the policies. So hindi talaga pinag-aralan, no? For each of the tax years in issue, McNeil prepared a rating worksheet that calculated the premiums for reserves direct written policies. Sambom and Wickel had ultimate authority to determine the premiums, and they always approved the amounts that Capstone advised. No? So wala nang appropriate na study, basta sinabi ni Capstone, approve naman si Sambom and si Wickel, no? So McNeil calculated the premiums using ratings based specific to PIC's business. For most policies, the rating base was PIC's annual projected sales, no? Projected annual sales. He applied the ratings base for its policy, a base rate that varied according to the type of insurance being provided, which yielded a base premium price for the first $250,000 of coverage. Capstone maintained a spreadsheet of the base rates for common policies that it administered on behalf of its clients' captive insurance companies. McNeil prepared the spreadsheet by reviewing the premium that all Capstone entities had charged in previous years, and the spreadsheet provided both an average and range of rates from which he could choose for its type of policy. On the reserves rating worksheet, McNeil adjusted the base premium amounts using increased limit factors. So ito na, pagdating na kay reserve, inadjust nila yung premium amounts, which accounted for the increased coverage limits in its policies. So adjusted yung premium ni reserve. Capstone engaged persons employed by outside firm, no, mid-continent. So ito na yung mga nangyayari after na meron na silang captive insurance. Okay. 2008 direct written policies. For 2008, Reserve issued 13 direct written insurance policies with PIC, RockWest, and CW as the name insureds, no? Ito yung mga company na sila din yung may-ari, no? Si Sambom at saka si Wickel. Its policy listed Poultry Insurance Co-op as the top loss insurer. These policies were effective from December 4, 2008 through January 1, 2009. No? So, ang dami niyang policy and the combined premium is 412,089. No? As noted, each of the direct written policies that Reserve issued showed only one premium price for coverage to be provided to all three named insureds. No? You can just imagine yung kanilang combined premium and then yung aggregate policy limit nila. Tingnan mo naman yung aggregate policy limit nila, pare-pareho 1 million. Pero napakalaki ng discrepancy pagdating sa combined premium. No? Pinapakita mo sa kanila, Are, yung combined premium at saka yung aggregate policy limit. No? So makikita mo talagang hindi pinag-aralan. Why? Kasi yung special risk product recall, the premium is 5,000 pero ang policy limit niya is 1 million. Yung excess pollution liability, 82,850 ang premium, 1 million din ang policy limit. So, napakalaki ng mga discrepancies, no? Iba-iba ang combined premium, tapos pare-pareho lang yung policy limit. So, parang hindi talaga siya pinag-aralan. Okay, 7 of the 2008 policies had retroactive dates. So, yan pa. Kailan siya retroactive? January 1, 2005. Kailan nga sila na register as insurance company? 2009. And then, meron na silang kinover na 2005. No? So, the tax liability policy provided that it would cover all tax period for tax returns whose due dates without extensions were during the 2008 calendar year. Oh, imagine yung kanilang registration 2009. The remaining 6 policies for loss of major customer, expense, reimbursement, loss of services had no retroactive dates, no? 2009 direct written policies. Noong 2009 naman, Reserve issued 11 direct written insurance policies, no? So ito naman yung kanilang premiums, 448,127, no? So yan yung combined premium nila and then the aggregate policy limit. So dito nag-iba na ang aggregate policy limit nila between 500,000 to 1 million na, no? The combined premium is 448,000. Yung aggregate policy niya is 8 million. No? Yung kanina, yung 2008. Ang combined premium noong 2008, 412,000. Ang aggregate policy limit niya is 13 million. Ngayon, pagdating ng 2009, 448,000 na yung combined premium, 8 million lang yung policy limit, no? So, tumaas ang premium, bumaba ang policy limit. Parang hindi talaga siya magkatugma, no? So, on January 1, 2009, an Atlas employee executed the 2009 policies on reserves behalf. During 2009, Capstone formed its own licensed insurance management company in Anguilla. Kaya, hindi na niya ginamit si Atlas. No? 2010, direct written policies. No, pagdating naman ng 2010, Reserve issued 11 direct written policies ulit. No? Parang sa 2009 din, 11 direct written policies. So, dito, combined premium is 445,000 and then the aggregate policy amount the same pa rin, no, na 8 million. Okay. Claims under direct written policies. The only claim made under one of reserve direct written policies was made in 2009. So, sila, di ba, sila yung insurance company, sila din yung insured. No? So, may claim na sila na ginawa noong 2009. So, sino nag-claim dito? Siyempre sila din, no? And how much is the claim? 164,820, which is binayaran naman, no? Ni PIC. Reserve issued PIC a check for 150,000 and then yung kulang na 14,820, no? But yung claim na yan na reopen ulit at noong September din 2009 and then ang maging magkano na siya, meron pa ulit na 175,000. So magkano na yung total na claim for that loss? 339,820, no? Loss ng potential customer. Okay. Poultry, the quota share arrangement and the credit reinsurance arrangement, no? Poultry stop loss endorsement. Okay. Itong si Poultry, this is another company, no, domiciled in the British Virgin Islands. Yung owner is si Stephen Friedman, no? It was redomiciled in Anguilla and on April 15, 2009 through 2010, mayroon din siyang Class B insurance license, no? But Poultry had no employees in Anguilla or in the United States. So walang substance, no? Capstone administered Poultry's operations and maintained the books and records for Poultry. Sambom was unaware of what Reserve did in Anguilla during the tax years in issue. Si Sambom, ito yung may-ari, no? Pero hindi niya alam kung ano nangyari kay Reserve sa Anguilla. Remember, nandun sila sa Idaho, United States, no? For each of the tax years in issue, Reserve and Poultry executed a joint underwriting stop-loss endorsement, no? So, Reserve was the lead insurer with respect to the policies and Poultry assumed an amount of business risk, no? So, hindi niya alam, may pinasukan na naman si Reserve na ibang kontrata with Poultry, no? Okay. Under the terms of the stop-loss endorsement for all tax years in issue, Poultry's obligation to pay on claim made against reserve direct written policies arose only if total claims threshold was exceeded. So in short, may mga agreement sila with their service providers na um, hindi rin nila masyadong pinag-aralan, no? So, under the modified 2010 stop-loss endorsement, Poultry's liability to pay on claim made against reserve direct written policies arose when all reported claims exceeded 35% of total combined premiums. For reported claim above 35% threshold, the 2010 stop-loss endorsement provided that Poultry was liable to pay 50%, and Poultry's participation level was limited to 100% of total combined premium. Poultry entered into stop-loss endorsement for insurance policies that other capstone entities issued. So during the tax years in issue, Poultry entered into endorsement for around 400 policies that between 51 and 56 capstone clients issued, and that the covered in the aggregate around 150 insureds. The terms of stop-loss endorsement that Poultry executed with reserve and with the other capstone entities were similar. No? Okay. Meron pa silang mga quota share policies. No? But in short, saan tayo natin sila titingnan? No? Okay. Ito na ang nangyari dito sa case na to, no? The taxpayer bears the burden of proving that the commissioner's determination set forth in the notice of deficiency are incorrect, no? Kasi inassess na sila dito dahil hindi na sila binigyan ng exemption, no? Anong sabi dito sa notice of deficiency issued? In March 29, 2016, respondent issued reserve a notice of deficiency for the tax years in issue. Ano yung tax years in issue? 2008, 2009, 2010, no? So in the notice, respondent determined that reserve was not a tax-exempt insurance company. So dinisallow na, hindi na inallow yung kanyang exemption, no? Within the meaning of Section 501C 15, respondent determined that reserves insurance and reinsurance transactions lack economic substance. Why lack economic substance? Kahit na yung policy niya, hindi mo maintindihan. No? And in the alternative, that it was not an insurance company within the meaning of subchapter 1 of the code because the predominant activity was not insurance. Okay. So, hindi talaga siya insurance. Respondent determined that reserve was not eligible to make an election under Section 953 to be treated as a domestic corporation, and that reserve was required to file return. No? So, under U.S. income tax return of foreign corporation for the tax years in issue. The notice stated that substitutes for return had been prepared for reserve for the tax years in issue. The notice determined that the amounts that reserve reported as program service revenue for the tax years in issue constituted taxable income. So ito na yung issue natin kanina, yung taxability of reserve revenue, no? So anong sabi ng IRS? Constituted taxable income. So taxable po yung revenue. The proposed tax liabilities in the notice were based on respondents' determination that the 30% withholding tax imposed by Section 881 applied to income that reserve received for the tax years in issue. Respondent determined that because reserve had failed to file forms 1120-F for the tax years in issue within 18 months of their respective due dates, it was barred from claiming all deductions and credits in computing its taxable income. So this allowed pati yung yung deductions, hindi siya entitled sa deductions, no? So both parties presented experts to support their respective positions. We focus on the degree to which experts' opinions are supported by the evidence. We do not use titles because we do not wish to imply greater deference to academic experts. So, anong nangyari? Walang substance yung kanilang insurance requirements, no? Reserve contends that it was engaged in the business of issuing insurance and it was a bona fide insurance company. Kasi nga may license nga siya, no, sa Anguilla. Respondent contends that Reserve was not an insurance company because its arrangement with PIC and the other insured was not insurance. So yun naman yung contention ng IRS na si Reserve is not an insurance company. Kasi yung arrangement niya with PIC, kasi si PIC is also a related party ni Reserve, no? Both owned by Sanbom and Wickel. And the other insured was not insurance, hindi raw insurance, no? Neither the code nor the regulations define insurance, and we are guided by case law in determining whether a particular transaction constitutes insurance for federal income tax purposes. Courts have looked to 4 criteria in deciding whether an arrangement constitutes insurance. No, so ito yung contention naman ng Internal Revenue Service para you can consider the transaction as an insurance. Number 1, the arrangement involves insurable risk. No? Kaya pag tiningnan mo yung listahan nila ng mga insurable risk, makita mo pati kung ano na nakalagay doon, no? Pati Number 2, the arrangement shift the risk of loss to the insurer. No? So dapat lang. Number 3, the insurer distributes the risk among its policyholders. Doon wala kang makita na pangalan kung sino yung policyholders. And number 4, the arrangement is insurance in the commonly accepted sense. No? Common sense insurance siya. No? These 4 non-exclusive criteria established a framework for determining the existence of insurance for federal income tax purposes. We consider all of the facts and circumstances in the light of the criteria outlined above. We will first look at the criterion of risk distribution. So, inisa-isa nila kung makikita ba yan doon sa transaction or activities ni Reserve, no? Letter A is risk distribution. Risk distribution occurs when the insurer pulls sufficiently large number of unrelated risks. From the insurer's perspective, insurance is a risk distribution device. No? Kaya nga risk mitigation. A mechanism by which the insurer pools multiple risks of multiple insureds in order to take advantage of the law of large numbers. Ensuring many independent risks for a numerous premium serves to distribute risk. No? Okay. So, ano nangyari dito sa risk distribution? No, sabi ng court, we found that the captive issuance of 7 types of direct policies covering exposures for 4 related entities was insufficient to distribute risk. So, hindi pumasa. No? Direct written policies. During the tax years in issue, Reserve issued between 11 and 13 direct written policies for 3 insured. 3 lang. No? According to Reserve, 1 company, PIC was the primary insured under all of the policies, even though the policies listed PIC, Request, and CW. 3 company. No? Sino may-ari lahat niyan? Si Sambo. PIC operated 2 facilities in Osborne, had a maximum of 17 employees, and maintained some machinery used to repair and fabricate mining equipment. It sold or serviced equipment used in 12 mines, and it sold some equipment outside the United States. The record establishes that the operations of the other 2 insureds were insignificant. So, sino lang ang significant dito? Si PIC lang. Pero yung si CW at saka yung isa pa, insignificant. Only 1 document relating to either of these entities was included with the background documents that Capstone used to produce the feasibility study. Request owned real estate in 3 locations, all of which it leased to PIC or another entity partly owned by Sambom and Wickel, and he had no employees. No? So, walang substance. ZW had no employees and owned no assets other than a small interest in a local bat. So, Reserve issued direct written policies for the tax years in issue that covered between 8 and 13 million in potential losses. And most or all of the risk of loss was associated with the business operations of just one insured. So walang substance. Yung isa lang ang pumasa, yung peak lang, yung iba hindi. So, anong sabi ng IRS? We conclude that the number of insureds and the total number of independent exposures were too few to distribute the risk that reserve assumed under the direct written policies. No? So, bagsak pa rin. No? So, reserve in this case failed to achieve risk distribution through the policies. No? And also the reinsurance agreement. No? So, natalo ang reserve dito. Okay. So, yun po yung nangyari. Tingnan natin yung decision. Yung decision ng court. Alam naman natin na talo dito yung reserve, no? Pero tingnan natin kung ano yung decision ng court, no? Reserve was organized and regulated as an insurance company and it satisfied the regulatory requirements of its domicile jurisdiction. Why? Kasi holder siya ng license, no? License B. It also paid a claim filed under one of its policies. Ito nga yung claim ni PIC, no? However, it was not operated as a bona fide insurance company. And there was no legitimate business purpose for the policies that Reserve issued for the insured. So, kulang siya ng substance, no? So, the direct written policies increased PIC's insurance coverage and expense for the tax years in issue, when it also continued to hold policies with third-party insurers. Kasi may law po tayo sa insurance, eh. Ano ba yung batas natin sa insurance? Yung insurable interest at saka yung amount ng coverage, no? Pag na-cover na yun ng insurance company, yung exist na lang ang ma-cover ng another company, no? When it also continued to hold policies with third-party insurers. So in the light of all the facts and circumstances, the premiums charged for the policies were unreasonable. So you can just imagine magkano yung kanilang charge sa premiums, 445,000, no? We conclude that reserve transactions were not insurance transactions in the commonly accepted sense. So, since it lacks substance, hindi talaga siya insurance transactions. So, taxability of reserves revenue. Kasi may revenue siya, di ba? May pumasok sa kanya na 445,000. We concluded that reserve did not issue insurance or reinsurance contracts. Kasi yung contract niya, yung laman, hindi mo maintindihan, no? During the tax years in issue, and therefore, it did not receive more than 50% of its gross receipts from insurance premiums. Because Reserve is not an insurance company, it is not eligible to make an election under Section 953D. Yung election na exempt siya, no? Section 953D applies only to foreign company which would qualify as an insurance company under subchapter 1 of the code if it were a domestic corporation. Since hindi nga siya insurance company, so hindi siya qualified. Because Reserve was not eligible to make an election under Section 953D for the tax years in issue, it should be treated as a foreign corporation. Oh, kasi hindi siya qualified as a domestic corporation. For each of the tax years in issue, Reserve reported the gross premium for the direct written policies and the insurance agreements as program service revenue on Form 990. For each of the tax years in issue, Reserve also reported revenue from investment income. For 2009 and 2010, it reported other revenue. So may mga other income pa siya. Oh? So Section 881 generally imposes a tax of 30% on fixed or determinable annual or periodical income received by a foreign corporation from sources within the United States if the income is not effectively connected with the conduct of a U.S. trade or business. If the income includes interest, dividend, rent, salaries, wages, premiums, annuities, compensation, remuneration, and emoluments. It includes all income included in gross income under Section 61 except for items specifically excluded by the regulations. Income are generally required to deduct and withhold therefrom an amount equal to the tax imposed by Section 881. Yun yung 30% na withholding, no? So in the notice, respondent determined that the amount reported as reserves, program service revenue were taxable income from sources within the United States and were subject to the 30% withholding tax pursuant to Section 881. Respondent conceded that the withholding tax should not apply to the amounts for the tax years in issue which reserve contents where gross premium received for the coinsurance contracts, which are 69,500, 76,500, and 66,000 respectively. So respondent maintains that the remainder of reserved self-reported program service revenue is taxable under Section 881. Reserve contends that if the payments it received for the tax years in issue were not for insurance, then amounts received from its affiliated insureds should be treated as contributions to capital or non-taxable advances or deposits. It contends that if we conclude that it had taxable revenue, then it is entitled to deduction in computing its taxable income. Kasi di ba pati yung deductions niya dinisallow? Reserve bears the burden of showing that the income it received is not if the income as reported, no? As respondent determined in the notice, reserve did not produce evidence which showed that the amounts at issue are not income subject to the 30% tax. We reject reserve's contention that the amount it received during the years in issue were capital contribution or non-taxable deposits. Kasi premium yun, no? So Sambo Manwikil capitalized reserve shortly after its organization with 100,000 as required by Anguillan law. The record does not reflect that the parties to the purported insurance transactions treated or intended the amounts paid to reserve as additional capital contributions. So whether a payment is a contribution to capital, reserve failed to specify why the payments might otherwise be treated as non-taxable deposits. There is no evidence indicating that the parties intended the payment as loan or gift. So nag-iba na sila ng contention, no? Kasi nagiging taxable na yung income. Reserve contends it should be allowed deduction for the tax years in issue. It bears the burden of proof on this issue. It contends that under Section 1.882-4A32 Income Tax Regulations, it had reasonable cause for filing Form 990 rather than Forms 1120F. Yun yung sa exemption. However, even if reserve established that it had reasonable cause for filing incorrect returns, we would not conclude that it is entitled to deductions. So, hindi talaga siya inalaw na ang deductions. Naging taxable sa gross yung kanyang reported na income. So, provides generally that deductions are allowed to a foreign corporation only to the extent they are connected with gross income which is effectively connected or treated as effectively connected with the conduct of a trade or business in the United States. Reserve failed to establish that it was engaged in or received income treated as income effectively connected with a trade or business within the United States. Okay. So, anong sabi dito? We sustain respondent determination in the notice that for the tax years in issue, reserve had income from sources within the United States which is subject to the 30% tax under Section 881. Reserve has not met its burden of proving its entitlement to any deductions. So, yung 30% niya based on gross kasi wala rin siyang ipapakita na entitled siya to deductions. So, yun po yung nangyari. Kaya, napaka-interesting po na aralin yung mga transfer pricing cases, no? Kasi because it lacks substance, so dinisallow yung kanyang insurance activities and tinax siya, lahat nung income niya, tinax on gross. Wala pang deductions, no? So, with that, anong title natin ngayon? Taxability of Reserves Revenue, no? Kasi nag-claim siya ng exemption, so the IRs were able to prove na hindi siya exempt, so nagiging taxable yung kanyang reported na income. And then yung co-insurance contract niya also lacks substance. No? So, with that, I would like to say thank you. May shoutout tayo, Hari?
Wala pong shoutout.
O, sige. With that, I would like to say thank you po sa ating mga viewers. Thank you very much. And then sa ating mga subscribers, no, we offer to you our free webinar, no? Please attend our free webinar and we will see to it na yung what you will learn are all updated topics in transfer pricing. No? So thank you very much and let's call it a night.